Retirement. Okay, so for some people, they're just like super excited to hear that word. It is in sight. They have a plan. Other people are like, it's never going to happen for me. It's decades away. I'm never going to have enough money. So we have a conflicted relationship to the word. What if we asserted that you actually could retire not just once and not when you're, 102, but you could retire often starting as early as your 20s or 30s. It's absurd to even assert such a crazy thing, but that is the essence of what Jillian Johnsrud says. She is a coach, she is an author, and she has a podcast and a new book that delves into this idea of retiring often. She joins us now from Montana. Hello.
Thanks so much for having me.
It is our pleasure. You have brought, this is a core value to you. You have talked about this. We've talked about this. It is now appearing in book form under the title of Retire Often. Tell us why you went this route. Why did you invest the time and energy to put, I shouldn't say pen to paper because I'm sure it was a keyboard, but you know what I mean.
I think, like you mentioned, retirement can be intimidating. And so I never assumed I could retire early. But I also had dreams that I didn't know if they would wait till I was 65 or 70 or whatever retirement age might be when I get there. And so I had done a dozen mini retirements. I had helped hundreds of other people do these, and I just saw how life-changing they were. But like you said, it's kind of absurd. It's like this crazy idea, and a lot of people are like, "What sounds fun?"
Mm,
But how would I actually do that? Like, how would I pay
yeah.
for that? How would I get the time off? And the answers to me seemed simple and obvious after having hundreds of conversations. So I thought, well, how about if I gather all that together in a book and give people a little direction and hope?
People love a book. We love a little how to and a little bit of inspiration. Let's start with some inspiration from your lived experience. What's an example of a mini retirement that you took? Where were you? What did you do?
Yeah, one of my favorites now that my kiddos are older. My oldest is about to turn 18 in 2 weeks, and I've
Wow.
got junior high kids and high school kids. But when they were all itsy bitsy, like 2, 5, 7, we did a 10-week trip through 10 national parks with all 5 kids in a pop-up camper. And I look back at those pictures, and they were little, and it was like strollers and backpacks and little bags of Cheerios. And it was such an incredible experience, like so many memories. But the reality is, like, there's seasons in life with an expiration date. Could I have done that trip when they were in their 20s and 30s, like loaded them all up for 10 weeks in a pop-up camper? Like, probably not.
So let me get this right. You left the house with
Yeah.
5 children in tow,
Hmm.
and you
Yeah.
returned to the house still with 5 children in tow. I am one of 5 children. There is
Yeah.
no way all of what's would have survived a trip like that.
Yeah, especially through national parks. The
Oh,
youngest were definitely on leashes because, like, I did not want them falling into geysers. So
yeah,
I was like, we
makes
need we
sense.
need to keep us together.
So there is a suspension of disbelief that I think
Hmm.
anybody who's even engaging in this conversation, let alone reading the book, needs to kind of ease into because it is so
Yeah.
counter to how we think, how we behave, what we've been told, how we plan. How do you help people get even to the starting line of considering this kind of thing?
Mhm. So partly I define a mini retirement as a month or longer. A month is kind of that minimum effective dose and stepping away from your 9 to 5 to focus on something that matters to you. So when we think about it in this context, a lot of people are like, actually, maybe I've done that. Like, I took 2 months after college and I backpacked through Europe, or, just before we got married, I took a month off and we did this cool trip. You might have these opportunities in life when maybe you got laid off and you got a 6 month severance and all of a sudden you were unemployed. So these are natural transitions and breaks in our career. But what if we're more intentional about it? What if we make a plan that, especially for people in their 20s and 30s, they're not looking at a 40-year career with the same employer. Part of their professional plan is I should probably switch jobs every 3 to 5 years. I should
Mm,
probably switch employers. And if you read the book and you kind of go through the idea and you're like, well, what if I took a month off in between? What if I
mm,
took 3 months off in between jobs? It sounds crazy on the onset, but if you're like, Actually, that's not so complicated. I could probably negotiate a month off for my employer.
Well, and in Canada, it is very common for Canadians to get at minimum 3 weeks holiday. Often
Yeah.
people have four. Now, less common that they would take them all at once, but it's not
Yeah.
so far out. You're not suggesting that people take a year off every five
Mhm.
years. Now, that being said, there's also something here in Canada that is a 4/5. So you can work for
Mm.
4 years and get 5 years of salary with enough planning. In the education space, that's something. In some of our crown corporations, it's something that you can work for. There's an element of creativity that you're
Yeah.
really pointing to. Talk a bit more about that. How do you access that creativity that helps you go outside of the paradigm of what's normal and acceptable and what everybody's always done?
Yeah, the first step in the book is imagining what this adventure would be. And I think it's important to start with the vision. So, kind of what is your bucket list? What are things that are these seasons with expiration dates? What are things that you might not be able to do in 30 years? Maybe your parents right now are in their 60s or 70s and they could like hike through Ireland with you, but you're like, yeah, if I wait 20 years, the likelihood of that is going to go down. And so you start with that motivation of actually, there's a lot of stuff I would like to do that it might not wait till I'm 65. And once you have that motivation, then it's easier to kind of work through some of these logistics of getting the time off and saving the money.
This is a money show, first and
Yeah.
foremost, and we look at it through all lenses and from all perspectives, but there's a dollar value here.
Mhm.
Take us through how you help people prepare.
So if you're going to get the time off unpaid, which, it's good to assume that maybe it won't be paid. So you're going to have to replace your monthly salary if you're taking a month off. And then I encourage people to cap the additional expense at maybe 50% of their take home pay. So if you're taking home 5,000, this additional adventure could be 2,500. And for people who are starting out earlier in their financial journey, front load the affordable ones. So you come up with this bucket list of 20 cool ideas, give them each a little price tag, and do the affordable ones first. One, it's going to really help your financial trajectory, but also there's a little bit of correlation with sometimes the more affordable adventures take more physical
Mm,
capability and capacity and a little bit more of an adventurous preference to, to do 10 weeks in a pop-up camper through 10 national parks might
mm,
be less appealing when you're 80. And
right.
so front loading those ones, and you can save the around the world cruise until you're 70. Like 70-year-olds love going on cruises.
Sure, sure. There is, the pre-planning, and then you also talked about the
Mhm.
serendipity of a job change that may come in a less predictable, on a less predictable timeline. How do you help people think about debt? Because I run a credit counseling agency. I am
Yeah.
really embrace this paradox of live your life and have zero debt outstanding on your credit card. Always paradox.
Yeah. Absolutely. I encourage people, we talk about in the finance chapter, filling 5 buckets. And one of those bonus buckets is paying down your debt because it gives you kind of a double bang for your buck. It frees up that money. If you're paying $300 a month, now you have that extra $300 that you can save towards your mini retirement. But on your mini retirement, you're also not paying that $300 bill. So it lowers your monthly expenses and makes it more affordable. And for a lot of people who, like, I love personal finance, I love a spreadsheet, I love a budget, but like, I'm kind of weird. So for people who don't like Google over spreadsheets, a mini retirement's a great motivation to really engage with their finances, to start tracking, to start budgeting, because it's kind of the carrot on the budget end of the stick. And once you master these principles, and it gives people this confidence of, oh, my money doesn't just happen to me. Like I can happen to my money. I can come up with a plan and I can make cool things happen by doing these really geeky, boring things like tracking my expenses.
Sure. You referenced with your trip, you actually left your house. Not everybody has
Yes.
to. You could have a mini
Hmm.
retirement where you stay put.
Yeah.
If you leave your house, there is an asset there. You may have a mortgage or rent that you're paying. What are some ideas on how you mitigate the cost of that? Or in some cases, you maximize the revenue opportunity. And I'll tell you, this is what we did when we lived on the Upper West Side in New York City.
Yeah.
Every time we left for more than a week, we had someone in our fifth floor walk up, which
Yeah.
enabled us to pay for Costa Rica and Asia and all those sorts of things.
Yeah. this can be so much more affordable than I think people initially assume. We rented out our house when we left, and it turns out it's cheaper for us to travel full time than to live
Right.
in our house.
Right.
Like it covered the entire cost of our trip, sometimes plus a little bit. I'm talking to someone later this afternoon who went, him and his wife went to Southeast Asia. It was much cheaper for them to be in Southeast Asia because they rented out their fully furnished house. So I say, budget an extra 50%. The reality is you might need to budget 0%. And the reality is you might come out a few $100s ahead by taking this mini retirement.
Yeah, yeah. We're a big home exchange, a big home exchange
Mhm.
house. So we go and people are in our house when we're not here, and then we go and stay in their house in some pretty fantastic locations around the world. What are some things that can go wrong for the worriers amongst us? I want to give oxygen to the concerns they may have in the back of their head.
It's funny. The concerns that most people have, especially in the US healthcare, we really stress about healthcare here. But finding the next job, is it going to be expensive? Those aren't usually the way things go off the rails, and it can go off the rails. One of the big ways is that sometimes people know they're a little bit burned out. And then once their body has access to rest, they're like, oh, I'm super burned out. And so they had planned to do these 47 things during their month off. And in
Right.
reality, like they nap a lot and go for a lot of walks.
Yeah.
And so that can be kind of confusing for anyone who's retired or been unexpectedly unemployed. Sometimes you can have, or sometimes we learned during the pandemic, you can have a little extra conflict with your spouse if you're not used
Mm,
to being around each other all
mm,
day long. And for some people, stepping away from their jobs, they have to have better boundaries with their friends
mm.
and family because work is a great excuse of why you can't do all the things they're asking you
Right.
to do. And when
Right.
you don't have that excuse, you have to have those communication skills to communicate those boundaries yourself. So there are some things that definitely go off the rails, but it's not usually finding another job.
Interesting.
There's an interesting phenomenon that when we're unemployed and people know we're off doing cool adventures, they just want to pull us back into the system. Like it creates this loop,
Yeah.
this open loop in their mind that they're like, oh, I see them hiking the Camino. Like they would be great for this job. Let's get them back in here. So a lot of
Yeah.
people get way more job offers when they're on their mini retirement than they ever did while they were employed.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, one last quick question before we go. Your kids are of varying ages, but some of them are,
Mhm.
getting ready to fly the coop. What have you noticed about their temperaments, about their values, that you believe are informed by your choice as a parent to create these mini retirements over the course of their lives?
It's incredible. I always said many retirements are life-changing, and I was referring to myself and other adults, but they've been life-changing for my kids because it opens up this whole new perspective, especially traveling with them, that other people have different histories, other people live different ways, and to connect with those historical events in a way that feels more visceral to them. We don't ever like plan out our whole trip. We just kind of wing it. I'm like, there's cool stuff everywhere. We don't have to plan everything. But
Right.
we were heading up through Alabama and we stopped in Birmingham. And I'm like, Birmingham, I think cool stuff happened here. So I'm Googling fun things to do in Birmingham. And we end up, it was in the US, a site of a huge voter registration kind of civil rights movement. And we end up in a museum of all the people in Birmingham who gave their life for voter registration.
Wow.
And it's just all of their stories in this one little room, all of their pictures. And my kids are just weeping. It's so overwhelmed by this moment in history. And I can tell my junior high kids, like, voter registration, voter rights, that's important. Like,
Yeah.
those things matter. But to feel it in a different way and for them to come back and be informed and have different conversations with other high schoolers,
Mm,
different conversations with other kids in junior high that, like, we might not get why something's important, but when you're in it and you feel it that way, it
great.
changes them forever.
That's great. Jillian, the full title of the book is?
Retire often, how anyone can take multiple career breaks to unlock adventure, advance their career, and find financial freedom.
Love it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Jillian Johnsrud is a coach, author of that great book, and she was in Montana today.